Hello everybody, it's Fiona Paltridge here for you for the last time for Donna Downey's Artist Gang. Well, can I say what a year it's been? This is amazing. This has been such a great opportunity. I'd like to thank Donna and Bill for all of their efforts that they put into the Artist Gang. And I hope that you've really enjoyed all of my videos this year. So I kicked off the Artist Gang in January with a little video that I did making a canvas, and now I'm going to finish off the year with a much bigger canvas. I've just done a speed up here of what I've been doing, and all of the colours that I used are linked in the comments of this video, so I'm not going to go through them now while we chat, but I will talk to you about a few of the tools that I use and a little bit of the thinking behind what I'm trying to do here. So the size of the canvas that I've got here, I think it's somewhere around about an 18 by 24 or a 20 by 30. 20 by 30, that sounds right, doesn't it? That's probably about what it is. I don't know. Look, I'm not very good with sizes. I just go, it's a bit bigger than the one I did before, but it's not as big as the one I did like last week. Sorry. Anyway, any size canvas you've got is going to do. What I'm doing is I'm practicing creating an abstract piece of art here using a horizon line. And a horizon line is obviously a horizon line, but in an abstract piece it can be a real feature. It can be draws the eye. So I'm just putting on my base colours, and I'm using good old scrapers here from the hardware store. I mean, in Australia I love Bunnings. Bunnings is our hardware place. I don't know what you guys have got in the US, but yeah, all over the world there's these big market, hardware places where you can go and you can get tools. So I use a spatula, like a proper palette knife, a good metal palette knife when I need to do some more detailed stuff. But when I'm just whacking paint on the background, the big thing that I like to use is these plastic cheapo scrapers from the hardware store. So you can see me using it here. I've got a couple of sizes that I like. I've got a really, really big one, and then I've got this sort of medium size one. They don't always do what I want them to do, but that's half the fun of using a scraper. And the other thing that I really wanted to add to this canvas was a bit of modelling paste texture. So I've grabbed out the stencil that I designed for Donna Downey, and it's just got some shapes on it. They're nice and generic, and I've just popped a little bit of modelling paste through that, and I'm just going to leave that to dry. You'll see that my outfit changes in a minute because I actually left it overnight. Modelling paste, to cure properly does take quite some time. I mean, you could hit it with your heat gun if you wanted to, but I always find that it's really the outer edge that dries. It doesn't really tend to dry in the middle very well, so there is nothing like some patience and time to allow that modelling paste to dry. Patience, yeah, one of those things I don't really have. Now I decided, speaking of not having any patience, I decided that I wanted to add my first top colour. I put a coat of white acrylic paint on this canvas to begin with for two reasons. One, because the canvases are slightly see-through, and a good white base acrylic, I mean you could have used gesso as well, but I just had acrylic paint with me, makes it a little bit stronger. But the other thing is it also helps those colours to blend together really well. And I've done the same thing here on this little horizon line when I've added this sort of mustardy yellow, I think it's a yellow ombre or something like that. Anyway, when I've added this colour, I've also put the white underneath to help it move around. There you go, costume change. So what I'm adding now is my favourite colour in the whole wide world, fluorescent pink. It is a hard colour for some people to use, but I forced myself a little while ago to practice with some fluorescent colours, and now I can't do a piece of art without adding these beautiful bold colours. I mean, I love colour, so that really helps. And I decided to add a little bit of the orange tones here as well. So I've got the yellow and the teal green and the grey I started with, the neutral grey. I mean, it's just such a good background colour, and added a bit of the, the Payne's grey to darken the edges. And I put the modelling paste on, and now I'm adding the colour. I was actually going to go for just a monochromatic green-blue tone canvas, but that's just not me. And now what I've done is I've got myself a baby wipe, like, just a wet wipe, and I'm just moving some of that paint around because I'm using an impasto paint, and it's really, really quite thick, which is what I want because I want lots of texture. but it's very difficult to smooth out the edges with the palette knife. So that's where my baby wipe comes in. I go through a lot of these wet wipes, I tell you, packets and packets and packets of them. I'm so glad that they're as cheap as what they are. The next layers that I go through is, I love this teal. I go back to this teal time and time again. And what I find that this does by scraping over the top with my palette knife is it just pushes back those other layers. So I've gone with my bluish layers, call them bluish, you know, my cool tones, and then I've put my warm tones over the top, which you've got to be really careful doing, because of course we know what happens if we put, you know, warm and cool tones together. We get beautiful brown. But yeah, so, and then the next thing I do is I put cool tones over the top again, and it pushes those really bright warm tones to the back, and it starts to give you that amazing layering effect, which is what I really want for this painting. The next thing I'm doing is I'm adding some water, but it just didn't quite work for me. I couldn't get that fluorescent paint that I was using. Even though it's a really good quality paint, it just doesn't have the same body that other paints have got, and so it doesn't move so well with water. So what I thought was going to be some pretty significant drips actually ended up being a little bit washed out, so to speak. But, you know, having said that, what I classify as terribly insignificant drips, because usually when I do drips they're pretty mighty, they actually worked really well. When I look at the end result, you can see now it's just starting to penetrate through that that yellow ochre colour. That's what it's called, yellow ochre. Why did I call it ombre before? That doesn't even make sense. But you can see that those drips are actually starting to cut through the yellow ochre colour, and it's got a really subtle effect on the background. So this is what I love about abstract art, and, you know, being a bit intuitive. And I have a bit of an idea of where I'm going with this, but I can't control everything. When I said I wanted to have drips, what I got was these really faint washed out lines in the background, which I thought I was disappointed with, but actually looking back on it, I really, really quite like. So lots of scraping with my metal palette knife now. I just keep picking out those colours from the background and bringing them forward. So this is the hot pink, you know, this beautiful fluorescent pink, which I'd pushed to the background, and I'm now bringing back to the forward again. This is where I really start to define where my horizon line is. You can sort of see it, like, you know it's there because there's a break between the teal and the hot pink, but you'll see soon that when we get towards the end, I really make it an absolutely strong feature. So with this pink, what I love to do is actually frame the outside of this warm colour area, so to speak. So it's almost like I've split the painting in two, where I've gone, you know, cool colours at the top, warm colours underneath, but I've also incorporated some of those warm colours you know, into both areas, and the cool colours the same. Did that make sense? It didn't make any sense at all. Anyway, you kind of get what I mean. I've mixed the two together without mixing them together. Now, the other thing that I've done is I've mixed charcoal with my acrylic medium. Not mixed it, but I'm using charcoal here now to go around the outside. I love to use charcoal with acrylic paint. It's tricky. It does take a little bit of practice, because it doesn't always grip to the paint to begin with. It does have to be just at the right dried point for it to really grip. If it's too wet, it just grinds through it and, you know, pushes your paint out the way. But here what I wanted to do was, I'm just doing that, you know, that thing you used to do when you used to rub charcoal over the top of things at school, you know, to get patterns. Well, this is what I'm doing with the modelling paste that I put in the background, because I felt that I'd kind of lost it a little bit, and I really wanted those textured pattern designs to stand out. So I used my charcoal stick to, one, define the edges of my painting, and two, to really bring out that texture in that painting by rubbing over the top. I get a little bit aggressive here because my painting tries to fall off, but that's okay. We'll slot it back into its little spot. And then for the last few little final touches, I just add some more of those favourite colours of mine, because I figure if it's going to hang in my house, I might as well put the favourite colours on it that I like. And yeah, so I'm adding some more of that fluorescent pink. I go back and forth with the charcoal. I add a lot more than what I think I'm going to add, and then I rub it away with my finger. Some of the areas of the painting's quite dry, so I can do this. And look, here I go, putting a bit of teal over the top just to settle it down slightly. It probably got a little bit too dark for me. One of the things that I would say to you if you're trying out some abstract art techniques is all I ever tell my students in my classes is, if you don't like it, just cover it up. It's as simple as that. Just find something that you do like and cover it up. So I obviously didn't like what I'd done down in that bottom corner, so I got my teal, because I do like that, and I covered it up. Now here I'm really defining this skyline, this horizon. It is going to be a band of pink that separates my teal with my my yellow ochre. And so here I get the heat gun out because I'm a little bit impatient. I can't get that charcoal to grip while the paint is wet. Of course, I put a layer of paint over the top so it became wet again. But yeah, just defining those outsides and that really striking line across the top. And I'm pretty much done. Like, I think this is it. This is one of my biggest problems, is I never know when to stop. So I'm learning to go, you know what? I like it as it is. Just leave it alone, Fiona. Just leave it alone. That is one of the hardest things to do. So I just dry it off a little bit more so I can add a bit of the black charcoal to that line to really define it. You can see it's starting to come out beautifully now. And yeah, and it'll hang up on my wall, and I'll be really proud of this one until I do the next one, and then I love the next one. So there you go. That's me. That's the way I think. Sorry about my ramblings. It's been a little bit weird, hasn't it? Hey, Merry Christmas. I hope everybody had an awesome Christmas day with their peeps, and that you got spoiled rotten. I won't see you again. Well, I mean, I will, because I've got a YouTube channel, so, you know, you can always subscribe to my channel. You'll see me there, but you won't see me here with Donna. It's been one hell of a ride, and I reckon what they say now is, that's a wrap. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. See ya.